as some of you may remember, about a month ago, I woke up super blind in my right eye. And I went to the doctors, and they were like, we're going to give you a shit ton of steroids. You're going to go home and rest. And we're just going to keep stealing all your blood to try to figure out how that happened. Because kind of weird. So this being blind was going medium. I would say it was a medium experience. So there I am at home, going back and forth from the hospital, doing all these tests, people stealing my blood, and it was a challenge, because there are some things that will happen in your brain when you can't see stuff that I talked about before, but I have one more story to share, and then I thought it would be fun to tell you about my adventures in the Canadian healthcare system and also being hospitalized for 3 weeks, because it turns out I have rare and garbage blood. And I thought that might be neat to hear about, because the condition I have, it's called NMO. It's quite rare, and most of the time when people talk about it, it's very depressing. So I thought it would be fun to share some of the sillier experiences that I had. So anyways, back to being hospitalized. So there I am, happy at home, just chilling. There were some minor incidents, like I had a family member who was kind of worried about me making food. So they were like at the top of the stairs, and they were like, Serena, I have food for you. So I go up to obtain the sustenance. And so they had these 2 Tupperware containers, and one of them, they were like, blah, 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 this is some kind of cucumber thing, blah, 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 this is some kind of something else. And I wasn't really listening because I wasn't paying attention. So I take the containers and I put them down on the counter somewhere, and I forget about it for a little bit. And then I come back to it and I'm like, oh, right, I should eat that. They put in all that effort to make me the food. It would be rude not to eat it. So I pick up the containers. So in my left hand, where I have an eye that is usable, I look and I go, oh yes, cucumber salad something. So I'm eating that, and that's going great for me. In the other hand, I'm looking at the other container, and I can't remember what she said it was. So my bad eye is on that side, and it's mostly processing all there's no information. So my brain looks at the sort of brown shapedness of it, and it goes, baked potato. So I also go, oh, baked potato. I love baked potatoes. So I reach into the container to grab what I think is going to be a baked potato. And I put my fingers, and it touches this like weird crinkly crackling sound, and then I as my fingers wrap around what I think is a baked potato, the skin begins to slide off of it with this nasty squelching sound. I freaked the fuck out. The container down, and I was like, oh, what the fuck? And then I was like, and then my brain does that thing where it suddenly did know what someone else said and it just didn't tell you before, and it goes, chicken. And I was like, oh my fucking God. So yeah, being blind in one eye was going medium, but I was at home, I was chilling, I got to take some time off work. That was kind of neat. I got to play some video games. And I was like, this is fine, I can handle this. I was already emotionally preparing myself to be blind forever. I was planning out my eye patch fashion. That was fine for me. So anyways, after we'd done pretty much all of the blood tests and things you could possibly do, we have an appointment with the neuro-ophthalmologist. That's the specialist that does brain and eye things together, because mine is a special brain and eye thing. So I go to the appointment, and I'm like, oh, he's just gonna probably tell me what he figured out so far. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna continue taking also this. Oh my God. Okay. So the steroids that they gave me, they had to give me such a strong dose that they had to give me 25 tablets to take every single day. And they're disgusting. Okay. They're so bitter and yucky and I was desperate to try to be a good patient. So I was rolling them in balls of peanut butter and chugging them with milkshakes, and it was terrible. And then finally one of my friends was like, that if you have like those chalky tablet things, you can just put them in water and they'll dissolve and you can just like chug it all. Best suggestion. I would suggest that immediately. So anyways, I was suffering at home taking the stupid steroids, and I thought I'd continue doing that. I go into the neuro-ophthalmologist's office prepared for like no information, and he's so serious. I thought I might have cancer or something. And he's like, you need to go be an inpatient at another hospital immediately. I was like, oh, okay. I just told my boss I'd be back at work tomorrow. So I was like, oh shit, my poor boss. We have so much work to do, and there's like 4 people that work at the store. How is he going to cover all these shifts? How long am I going to be gone? The doctor was like, yeah, you're probably going to be an inpatient for like 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, fun. So there I am in the fucking hallway Googling shit, because he's like, so basically, we got some blood work back, and you have a very rare cousin of MS, and it's very serious. I was like, okay. So he's like, yeah, you have NMO. He doesn't really go into it very much. So basically, we come out of the appointment. People are trying to get me home so that I can pack a bag to then go all the way back to the hospital, because we don't live in the city. So there I am in the car fucking Googling, because I'm like, I don't know what that means. All I know is that he said that the reason they were able to tell that it was NMO was because I have like some special little antibody guys that are going around fucking up my optic nerve. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out why my antibodies are Rocky 3ing my optic nerve, and Googling on the phone, and everything that comes up for NMO is fucking terrible, okay? It's all really depressing. It's all like people that... So I guess, basically, people used to think NMO was MS because they look very similar, but they're actually different. So what would happen is people would get diagnosed with MS, and they would do all the treatments for years and years and years, and they would just get worse, because what it is your little evil Aquaphor antibody guys go around looking at your optic nerve and shit in there, and they go, you're an enemy, I don't like you, and then they just demolish it. And it's really, really like severe attacks, so you'll get like a loss of vision in your one eye, like what I had, or you might like be paralyzed. But unlike MS, it can't be treated the same way. So these people would just get worse and worse and worse, and eventually they'd end up like completely paralyzed in a wheelchair. And all the information I was finding was that. And I was like, should I be making like a will or something? Should I be like making a medical care directive? Is that what my future is gonna be? And I wasn't sure, because it seems like I am very lucky that this like special blood testing, it's still fairly new. Like they weren't able to tell by identifying these antibodies just a couple years ago. So there are now people that have the same condition that are actually being diagnosed and treated early. So hopefully it'll be good for me. But yeah, it was a scary car ride, because I was trying to figure out what the fuck was happening. And all the like groups and stuff I could find were people being like, it's terrible and everything is bad and I have a cane. I had to give up my job. And I can't have kids. And I was like, holy shit, this is gonna suck ass. So yeah, there I am. I go home. I'm trying to pack my bag, and I'm like trying to be efficient with what's gonna go in the bag and bring myself snacks and stuff to do. Because I've never been an inpatient before. I've actually haven't really gone to the doctor that many times. That's also why I wanted to make this video. So growing up, I thought you still had to pay for a decent amount of stuff in the healthcare system in Canada, because my parents never fucking took me to the doctor. Like, we did our regular doctor checkups, but like I had this thing for like 2 years where I would pass out immediately if I tried to blow dry my hair, or I stood up too long, or I got slightly too stressed out. Like every single week I would just pass out, and they just never took me to see a specialist or anything. They were just like, you're doing it for attention. So I thought Maybe it was just expensive because they complained a lot about my braces and how expensive my glasses were, and that I was just overall a very expensive child healthcare wise. So I thought, like, you still have to pay for a decent amount of stuff. No. Every single visit I went, I handed my Alberta healthcare card, and they were like, awesome, okay, go sit in the waiting room. The only thing I paid for was the steroids, which was expensive. It was like $40 a bottle, and it was terrible. And I hated them, and I still have to take them. They're really yucky. But yeah, I don't have to pay for anything. So I'm like preparing to be an inpatient. I get to the hospital, and they're like, oh, so we can't put you in the neuro unit quite yet because we don't have a bed available. So you're going to hang out in the general surgery ward. And I was like, okay. So I'm trying to like be chill about it. I got all my stuff. I put my little bag in its little place, and I like set my boots up nice so that everything's kind of like together and orderly, and I'm just hanging out, adjusting to what being in the hospital is like. And they're like, yeah, so we have to monitor your blood sugars every 5 hours. I was like, oh, why's that? So it turns out the steroids, they can make you kind of like a diabetic. So they had to make sure that my blood sugars were cool. And I was like, neat. I get to be poked every 5 hours. And then they were like, oh, so we need to give you these cortisol shots. No, not cortisol. That's also steroids. We also have to give you this anticoagulant. Because if you're in bed for such a long time, which you probably will be because you're here for 2 weeks, you could get blood clots, and that would suck. And I was like, oh, okay. And then they were like, also, we have to put you on this IV that's filled with steroids. And I was like, okay. So there I am, filled with needles and pain and suffering. And in the general surgery ward, and I'm lying there in bed that night. Because basically what they told me was, so when you get to the hospital, you're going to continue on the steroids until the end of when the doctor told you to do them. But we're also going to be doing this thing called a Plex treatment. And what that is they filter all of your blood through a machine in a special unit called the Apheresis unit to scoop out the antibodies and replace them with like a synthetic plasma. So I was like, okay, so I'm going to be here. I'm going to be doing some kind of weird blood infusion, transfusion, filtering thing every other day for the next 2 weeks. And then I get to go home. I can do that. That'll be fine. So yeah, there I am in bed that night, just lying there. And like, you got to remember, aside from not being able to see in the one eye, I felt fairly healthy. Because part of what the steroids do is they like reduce the inflammation in your whole body. So you feel pretty healthy. So I'm lying there. The guy in the bed next to me is like asphyxiating. He's like all night. And I like the call button in my hand. And I was like, should I call someone? He doesn't sound good. Like I thought he was gonna die. And like I was really concerned for him. And then the next morning, he gets to fucking go home, and I'm still there. And I was like, what? How does that work? So yeah, that was neat. And then in the morning, I'm like just adjusting to being there, eating the food. By the way, hospital food, not bad. I didn't hate it. And the nurse is like, oh, okay, so you're going to get your catheter in your neck today. I was like, I'm getting my what now? In my what now? So it turns out, in order to do the blood filtering apheresis plasma Plex treatment, they need to stab you in the neck with a catheter. And then that works like an IV site, and they scoop your blood from there. And I didn't know that was happening until the morning. So she like tried to explain it to me, but I was very concerned. So I started Googling it, and I find some article that's like geared towards parents of children with like cancer. Because I guess sometimes the apheresis treatments can be used for things like leukemia or something. And I guess children get to go and be anesthesiaed because they're small and we don't want them to be scared. But if you're an adult, sucks. So, also, you're not allowed to like walk to the other clinics in the hospital if you need to go somewhere for an appointment. They have I didn't even know this. There's this special job. It's called a porter. And it's a person where like their whole job is to wheel patients back and forth from different places in the hospital in a wheelchair, and then also push all of the crazy heavy machinery and stuff around the hospital to get from place A to place B. And I thought that was super cool. I didn't realize that was like a career thing you could do. There's also like people they are called food services, and their whole job is to like make the food and then bring you the food and then take the food empty trays back. That was cool. So anyways, porter comes. I hop in the wheelchair. We go down to the place where they're going to stab me in the neck. And I was not super cool with it because, you know, I had always thought that, like, if you ever get, like, stabbed in the neck or something, even if you're in a hospital, you could, like, bleed out and die. That's how I thought that worked. And the doctors are like, oh, no, it's fine. You know, it's pretty standard procedure. We do it all the time. So I had to, like, sign a little waiver, and they're like, do you understand what's going to happen? So I get in there, and I gotta hop up on this fucking table and, like, lie down. They, like, put a little, like, towel over half of my face, and they, like, put some things to, like, catch the blood. And then they put this, like, weird sort of topical anesthesia on my neck, and it was kind of gross. And they, like, gave it a couple minutes. They asked me about what I do for a living, and they were very nice, honestly. I liked all the people that stabbed me in the neck. So yeah, they anesthesiaed it, and then they, like, stabbed me in the neck with the thing, and they, like, put in the little tube that's supposed to go into your throat. That part, not fun. Like, it didn't hurt in, like, a sharp stabby way. It was more like if someone had their finger in your throat and they were, like, poking around in there really, really hard. Not a fun experience. I would not recommend it. I would say that portion of it was a 3 out of 5 at best. But the people doing it were excellent. I would give them a 6 out of 5. They were all very lovely and very nice and very friendly. So yeah, then I have this catheter in my neck. I got an IV in my hand. I'd been poked with needles all day and all night. And then I go back, and they're like, okay, you're going to be starting apheresis probably today or tomorrow. And that was my first day. And then, like, second day, I go for the plasma apheresis thing. Honestly, I did not hate that portion. First time didn't go very good. So in between all of the visit, the going and doing the treatments, it was mostly just sitting in bed, being on my computer. I did a lot of writing. I did so much work. And it turns out that's because of the steroids. So one of the side effects of steroids is that they will keep you up really, really late. And you feel excellent. So there I am, powerhousing my work. I'm getting all my freelance stuff out of the way. I'm writing my book. I banged off like 20 chapters of my new book while I was in the hospital because I was like wired for like 4 days. Yeah, super productive. Who knew all I needed to be successful was to just not sleep? I should just not been sleeping, just been filled with steroids. So yeah, I was actually fine. I was powerhousing away. I was doing lots of stuff. It was very quiet because when I finally got set up in the neuro unit that I was supposed to be staying in, I had like actually quite a nice room. There's like a really big window that promptly got filled with stuff that people brought me. I was very fortunate that like a lot of people were like worried about me, so they wanted to like send me things or bring me snacks. So I got lots of teddy bears and things. It was very sweet. But it filled up the hospital room very quickly, and I was very claustrophobic. But yeah, like all I had to do was sit around, and then a nurse would come every couple of hours and stab me with something or make me take a pill, and then I would just hang out and sleep or be on my computer. So the apheresis part, though, it's kind of neat. The first time did not go good. So I get there. they hop me up onto the bed and they like hook the little thingy into my neck and they're like, oh, we're gonna start the filtering. It seemed to be going great. I didn't feel excellent. It kind of made me nauseous. And then I just started crashing like 20 minutes from when we were supposed to be done. So they had to like stop the thing and then give me some calcium or something. I don't even remember. It was calcium or potassium or something. And then from then on, they were like, okay, so we need to give you many fluid before we begin, just so that doesn't happen again. Other than that, very neat. So what it is I had these like 3 tubes stuck into my neck that kind of hung out. It was kind of like having a cow udder on your neck. That's the best way I can describe it. I have pictures. I'm not sure if I'll include them. So it has like these 3 lines that go into a machine. And you just sit there for like 4 hours. It's a really long time because what it's doing is as your blood is filtering through your body, it's then goes into the machine, out of the machine, and back into you after it's been filtered. I learned my blood is color-coded. That was neat. I learned that doctors can see when you eat triglycerides because I'd had like some kind of Asian something. It was like a hospital meal. And I come in for my apheresis on one of the days and they're like, oh, did you have like Chinese food or fried food? And I was like, no. And they were like, oh, well, we can see it because, you know, your blood gets cloudy when you eat that. And I was like, neat. I didn't know that my blood could tell on me. How rude. So, yeah, I learned lots of cool things about medicine, like that you got to flush an IV, which is like when you have an IV or something and then you like stop it, sometimes a little bit of your blood just like flows back out of there in the little tube, and they just squish some saline in there and they're like, you're good to go. So yeah, it was a lot of back and forth from sitting for 4 hours, writing my book, doing nothing, in apheresis, to then being in the hospital bed. I tried to like be getting up and going around at night also because I couldn't sleep. So like the first like 5 nights I would just like get up and I'd like go down the 11 flights of stairs. I could have taken the elevator, but I was trying to like maintain some level of physical activity while I was there. So I go down the 11 flights of stairs and I'd like buy a coffee or something. That was actually a highlight for me. I was on a regular diet. I could eat whatever I wanted. So sucks for everyone else that had to eat healthy food. So I'm over there like eating snacks and shit. Yeah, that was honestly like overall the care I received was very positive experience. Everyone was very nice. Everyone was very attentive. I never felt like I was being like ignored at any point, and I got into the hospital very quickly. People were already there waiting for me and like had stuff set up and ready to go. And there was like constantly people checking in on me. It was great. However, oh my God. Okay. So there's this old lady that I was in the same room with for like a while, and she was very, very hard of hearing. And I was front seat to a never-ending drama that drove me crazy. So I'd be lying there hanging out. The nurses would have like just come 5 minutes ago, and she'd be complaining to her daughter. I swear she had like 17 daughters. It was always a different lady, but they were all equally upset about something. And she'd be complaining that like the nurses gave her the wrong thing or they didn't do whatever. And I, being the person who's been in the room the whole time with her, would know that it's because what would happen is the nurses would be like, oh, we gave you XYZ for whatever because you were saying X. And then she would be like, what? You gave me F. And she'd be like, you're not supposed to give me that. And they'd be like, no, that's not what we gave you. We gave you XYZ. And she just like couldn't hear them. So she just assumed that they had said the wrong thing. And eventually they just have to give up because they told her so many times. And then she'd be like, telling her daughters that they gave her the wrong thing, and then they'd be upset. And there was also this whole like dynamic of like some of the children wanted their mom to be on all the pain meds so she didn't suffer at all, because this poor lady, oh my God, I don't know what was up with her, but like she had some kind of crazy surgery. They were like moving her in a sling and stuff. It was wild. Just like And then I'm over here like perfectly fine just being stabbed full of needles because I have stupid garbage blood. And then the other half of her children, visitors, people would be like, no pain meds for my mom. She should suffer a little bit because we don't want her being over medicated. So there's like a constant full week drama of just the care is so consistent in this hospital and the nurses never come when I need them, even though I don't press the help button that I've been provided. And everything is terrible. I feel like she was actually just like super drugged up and she didn't know any better, but it drove me nuts because I had to listen to it and it was constant. Or I'd like just really want to like visit with one friend and then I'd be super loud complaining about stuff and I'd be like, oh, this is gonna be 2 weeks. Yeah, other than that, like it was pretty positive. Honestly, I learned a lot about hospital drama. I guess porters are kind of like lower class citizens in the hospital dynamic, and they have a lot of complaints about elevators and people being rude to them and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, so it was very long. And then I was finally getting, so what they had told me was you're going to do probably about 5 Plex treatments. So you'll be here for about 2 weeks. And then we'll see how well that goes and you'll go home. So I think it took about 3 or 4 treatments for my eye to start improving. Cause I went from like not being able to see shit to like, oh, I can sort of see things again. There's like sort of the outlines of stuff. I began to be able to like actually make out a little bit of people's faces with the one eye again. That was pretty neat. And they just wanted to see how good that would do. So by treatment 5, I thought I would be discharged. All the nurses thought I would be discharged. So I got to go in an ambulance. So I guess when you have a patient in one hospital and they need to go to another hospital, they'll just send an ambulance to come and get you. So that was cool. So I had 2 nice sort of ambulance people come and bring me to the other hospital. It was very chill. I went and I did my eye appointment, and then I saw the ophthalmologist neurology guy again. And he was like, you've been responding so well to these treatments. I think you're actually going to do 2 more. And I was like, oh, okay. So at that point, I was like, I don't know when this is going to be over, but I've been here for 2 weeks and I just want to go home and be done and sleep. So I was like, I will do whatever you fucking want me to do. I just want to go home. So I go back to the hospital, and unfortunately, the nurses thought I would be discharged, so they'd already scheduled my bed for someone else. So I had to like move all of my stuff from the hospital room into this shitty hallway bed. So like instead of being in a room, I was like in the middle of a hallway with like a shitty divider in front of it. And it was terrible. The fucking bed was also terrible. And yeah, then I was like stuck in this stupid hospital. And I think they felt bad. So they let me go home for Thanksgiving because I couldn't go in for my apheresis on the weekend anyways because the clinic was closed. So yeah, there I am in the shitty hospital bed awaiting my last 2 apheresis treatments so I can go the fuck home. But yeah, like my eyes improved quite a bit while I was there. So the part of the reason the doctor decided I should stay a little bit longer is they did like a little chart, right? So they were like, this is your field test when we tested to see how much your eye could see before you went to the hospital. And it's just like a black nothingness. My eye couldn't see shit. And then they were like, this is what it's like now. And it was like a fairly large central blind spot with like a little tiny extra one. But like it was like most of the vision was where it should be. Most of my eye was seeing stuff. So yeah, there I am, shitty hospital bed, just got back from Thanksgiving. So the last couple appointments went fine. It was good. Like the very last day that I was in the shitty hospital bed, the lady comes in and she's like doing my last treatment and like prepping to take out my catheter in my neck. And she's like, wow, this bed is really uncomfortable. And she goes to adjust it and she's like, this isn't plugged in. So she plugs it in, and it's immediately 10,000 times better. So one of the neat things that I found about the hospital beds is that they move like all the time. Like, it was really hard to sleep the first night because there's like all the noises and stuff from the hospital and people breathing and moving, and the bed itself is constantly readjusting so that you don't get bed sores. But like, honestly, best sleep I've ever had, because I'm constantly like having back pain and just uncomfy in bed. And so like, I want a bed that moves in my sleep so that I can not have that again. So anyways, yeah, that was neat. So then she takes the fucking catheter out of my neck because we're done with the blood treatments, and I was like, yes, I get to go home. And then they were like, actually, you don't get to go home yet. So NMO, part of it is that like there needs to be a long-term treatment plan because it is a chronic disease. And what because I had another specialist, like a neuro lady who specializes in MS, was that they wanted to get me on something called rituximab, which is what they use for people with NMO. And the thing is, it's crazy expensive, very, very expensive. You need to get like a lot of approvals for it because it's expensive, and it's only used for like really serious things. And the hospital was like, yeah, we just thought like instead of you waiting 3 to 4 months to get into a clinic to do the rituximab, we could just give you your first infusion here, and then that's out of the way. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm here longer now. But I got the catheter out of my neck, and now it's itchy, so that's cool. And then a day or two later, they were like, yep, we got approval. We can give you your infusion, which went poorly. So I'm like, okay, I do this stupid rituximab, and I get to go home today. I did not get to go home today. So rituximab, like 88% of people are really allergic to it. So before we even begin, they're like putting Benadryl and steroids into me, and they're like setting down an anaphylaxis kit on the table and going through all the things. And they're like, if you have any symptoms of being allergic, you need to let me know while we do this. And I was like, cool. So so first the nurse like tried to put the vein, the Stoopy IV thing in my arm, and it exploded in pain. I had a bruise, like a huge ass bruise on my arm for like 3 weeks. It was terrible. So then she puts it in a different part of my hand. So I have now been stabbed literally everywhere you could stab a person, because all the like the blood testing for the blood sugars was like all my fingers. The stupid anticoagulant shots are either in your arm or your belly all week long. So yeah, it was already not great that my vein was exploded in pain. That was cool. I'm sitting there, and I start like feeling kind of like sick and itchy and stuff, and like my neck is like crazy itchy, and I start getting like all these hives and shit, and I'm like, hey, so I think I'm a little bit allergic, but like I'm still breathing and stuff. And they're like, oh, okay. So I guess it's like, so it's not like if you're allergic we stop. It's like we have to find the appropriate level of you being allergic, where like you're not gonna asphyxiate, but like we still do the treatment. So there I am suffering. My head is itchy as fuck. And I'm like, this is fine. This is cool. I get through it, and then we're done, and I get to go home today. I did not get to go home that day because I started like having my throat feel bad and weird, and they were like, oh, I guess we have to stop now. So they were supposed to give me more Benadryl when I started getting allergic, and the order just like never came in for some reason. So I go to bed that night just feeling fucking terrible. And I'm like, oh, I just want to go home tomorrow. So guy comes in, and he's like, hey, so we could try again with a lot more Benadryl and things, and then you could go home tomorrow. I was like, whatever it takes. So I spent my whole fucking day getting this garbage allergy pumped into my body. And if you're curious why they needed to do that, essentially, this rituximab stuff has some special things in it, and it just goes through your immune system and destroys your B cells. Just a lot of them, because it's like targeting something specific in the B cells, and it's supposed to it's supposed to like reduce the amount of like antibody things happening, but that also means that like your immune system is just like a little tiny baby immune system now. It's a little garbage immune system. So yeah, I spent the whole next day doing the stupid rituximab, and I was thankfully not allergic. And then I just wanted to go home. I just wanted to go home and sleep. So I finally get discharged from the hospital. And I get to go home. And then it was like a whole week of more appointments, of going back to see all of the specialists and all of the doctors, to then re-go over all of the things and the NMO diagnosis and what that means and what the treatment is and the different things I gotta do. And I was like crazy tired. And I also just like wanted to go back to work at some point. I was so done with being sick all the time. So yeah, I just had my second rituximab infusion like a week or two ago. It went okay. I was at like an outpatient clinic. It was very clinical. It was a very weird sort of military experience, because unlike the hospital, which is like quite nice, it's like a very stark, super bright white room with like a lot of little tiny almost like tent squares in it, and like different people in it. A very weird experience. Also, I don't fucking know what it is about the rituximab, but my veins hate it. I have a bruise on my hand, and it's huge. It's a huge bruise. And it's been there since I did my second infusion, and it still hurts a little bit. But yeah, so like I'm at the point now where I get to be at home. I started going back to work, which was fine. And like overall, it's been okay. I still have a little bit of a blind spot in my right eye, but if I have both of my eyes open, my left eye fills in enough that I honestly wouldn't know the difference. So like I've been able to do like driving and stuff just fine. It's more that like being in the hospital for like 2 or 3 weeks, and like you don't really, even if you're trying to like be getting up next to, you're not doing a lot. So I was just like exhausted all the time, like just going to walk to the grocery store, I'd be so tired, or like moving 1 or 2 heavy things, my body would just be like, no more energy for you, you're so sleepy, it's time for you to go to bed. Yeah, so like I don't know, overall it's mostly I just find I'm very tired very quickly. The steroids are gross and garbage, and I still need to take them for a while. And yeah, I don't know, I'm just tired. And also there's this neat I feel like a war vet sometimes, because I'll be like, my eye's acting up. Because what'll happen is if I get too tired, or like I'm just like really exhausted, my eye will start doing these like weird visual floater hallucination-y things in the one eye, or it'll just like go completely blurry for a little bit. So I'll just be sitting there at the table, and people will be like, oh, Selena, how are you doing? And I'll be like, my eye's acting up a little bit because I'm tired. So yeah, that's what I'm up to. Long term, hopefully if the rituximab does its job, I might actually be okay. Apparently, like if you're diagnosed early and the treatments work for you, you might never have an attack again. You might only have one every once in a while. You might not have anything happen for like 15 years, but it is something that I constantly have to do medicine for. And I'm also very thankful that I live in Canada, because apparently like this rituximab stuff is like $10,000 every time. I don't have that kind of money. If I had to pay for that, I would just lay down and die. I'd be like, guess I'm gonna be paralyzed forever. There's no way I could afford that. Cause yeah, like the prescriptions are kind of pricey. I paid like $100 for stupid steroids, but I don't gotta take those forever, so that's great. So yeah, that was my experience in the Canadian healthcare system. I'm sure there's other things that I probably wanted to tell you about, but I can't remember. And that's also a little bit of what it was like being diagnosed with NMO, which was weird. I'm a little bit bummed out about the garbage blood situation because after having so much of my blood stolen, I was like, should I have been donating blood the whole time? Apparently I have so much extra to give. They'd take like 15 vials at a time of my blood for different tests. And I was like, we have a lot of extra blood in our body that we're not maybe necessarily using that much. I would love to donate that, but I can't now because my blood is filled with garbage and we don't want my garbage blood touching your garbage blood. So yeah, that was everything I wanted to share with you. And I hope you enjoyed. If you did, I don't know. I'm hoping I won't have any more hospital stories ever again. So hopefully this will be the last hospital story video I ever make. Okay, bye.